Hello, my name is Valentina Vee, and welcome to Tips and Tricks Tuesdays. Oh my gosh, my hair's all over the place. It's not Tips and Tricks Tuesdays, lies. I'm so used to saying Tips and Tricks Tuesdays because that is a show that I actually did on this very channel. So for who asked? For Sri Devi, who asked, are there any After Effects sessions on this channel? Well, yes, there are. If you go type in my name and the word After Effects, you'll be able to see my trainings that I've done for After Effects. But I am a little ahead of myself. If you can see me and hear me, please give me the word battery in the comments. Just write the word battery, and then I'll know that you can see me and hear me. I brought the mic a little closer to me, and I am talking a little quieter, and hopefully that solves a lot of the reverb. I'm in a new apartment. So if you're used to seeing my regular background, it's a little bit different. And this new apartment has pretty bad internet. But here's the good news. The good news is that we just found out that we can upgrade to the fiber. So that is what we are going to do. So if it cuts out at any point, the stream will not cut out, okay? I see a bunch of batteries. They're awesome. So what I am doing is I'm actually on the stream here on my phone as well. So I'll let you know if I cut out. I'll be in the chat room. Here, I'll put myself in the chat room right now. Battery. I guess I can see and hear myself. So that way, you'll know that I'm still here and we're still together. Now, where is everyone from? Somebody says audio is what? Battery voice is very hoarse. What does that mean? Is it too loud? Is it too soft? Let me know about the audio, because obviously I want it to sound really good. So if it's weird, let me know. I'm also going to move my camera a little bit this way. One of the things about being a professional filmmaker is I do these live streams on the actual camera that I use for filmmaking. So I literally shot a commercial on this camera yesterday. So I had to place it here again and set everything up again. So I'm constantly running back and forth. So looks like audio has a little delay. That's fine. Once I pop into the corner, you won't be able to tell that it has a little delay. Cool. Well, hi, everybody. Let me know where you're from. Let me know what level of video editor you are. This is for beginners. So if you are at level 0, level -70 or whatever, then this is for you. Hey, thanks, K Michael. K Michael says it looks, it sounds great. You're the type of person that I want in my life. Okay, so now that we've done a little intro and everyone's here, it looks like we have 85 viewers. Awesome. Let's pop over to how I organize my files. Now, when you shoot with a camera, you would normally, bring all your files into a hard drive or onto your computer or something like that, right? But do you organize them? Do you name them? Do you change their names? Probably, maybe not. So I'm going to show you a really simple way to do this right off the bat here. And let me open up Adobe Bridge. So a lot of times, maybe you're shooting with a simple DSLR camera or something like that, and every single file in there is called C001 or C002, right? And you want to be super organized. So let me show you how to do that. So here is my screen. I don't know why I'm so tiny in it. Let me bring myself up a little bit bigger. Did I get tiny all of a sudden on everything? Oh, looks like I did. See, this is what happens when you use your streaming camera for your actual job. So sometimes, okay, now I'm not tiny anymore. So you take a look at my screen. Hopefully you can see it. Hopefully you can see myself drawing on it. Let me change the color of my drawing. There we go, pink. And you can see how I organize all of my footage. So I have a folder for footage, a folder for audio, a folder for graphics, music, photos, documents, Premiere. This is what's important. So every time you start a new Premiere project, you're going to put that project into its own folder. And I have a folder for After Effects and a folder for exports. Usually when you're just starting out, you're probably only going to have 2 folders. You're going to have the footage folder and you're going to have the Premiere folder. And if you look at my whole hard drive here that I have, you can see how it is organized, right? I have the date that it was shot, right? Underscore, and then what it is. And then each of these has the same exact folders inside. So if I click on this one, footage, audio, graphics, etc. If I click on this one, footage, audio, graphics, etc. This helps me stay organized. Now let's go into this one where we have a video that basically I made this video in order to sell a TV show that I made. And it's a little behind the scenes featurette of a show that I directed called Moments in Time. It's a travel show. We went all around the world with Elia Lacardi, who is an amazing landscape photographer. We shot all these gorgeous landscapes, but you know, an executive at HBO or Netflix isn't going to watch all 19 episodes of the show. They're going to watch a 3-minute featurette though, right? So we got to take the highlights from the show and put it into the featurette and add some of us talking about it to sort of guide the viewer through it. So here we have the footage. So if I go into footage, you can see here that these 3 clips right here, these were recorded by me on my camera. And they're already named the way that I like to name things, with the date, underscore who it is, and then underscore the clip name, right? But then these clips right here, these 4 clips from Elia, 1, 2, 3, 4, they are named with just the name of his camera, or just what his camera pops out, which is like DSC F8111, which is, I think, the Fuji cameras. That's how they name their clips, right? So we want to make his clips the same sort of naming convention as my clips, just to make it easier. So we are going to open up Adobe Bridge, which is a program that helps you organize files and all that jazz. You don't have to learn too much about it, but here's what it does do, which is really, really fun. So we go into this PC, and we pull up that folder, and of course everything is organized because I love organizing everything. So everything is here. And I immediately find the clips that I want to rename. There they are, right? Here they are. So I'm going to select them by pressing the first one, holding down Shift, pressing the last one. So I've selected all 4 of them. I'm going to right click and go to Batch Rename. Now, you're probably wondering, do I have to do this for all my clips? No, you don't have to do this for all your clips all the time. This is just when you have a lot of clips or you want to stay organized, or maybe you want to find a clip later in your program. Having some sort of naming convention helps a lot. I'm going to go to Batch Rename. And then it's going to say, what's your destination folder? Do you want it in the same folder? I'm going to say, yes, I want it in the same folder. And then it's going to say, what's your new file name? So in this case, my file name is, I want the current file name to stay the same, right? But before it, I want to put some text. So I'm going to put text before it. And the text that I want to put in is the date and then underscore his name and then an underscore. So I'm going to write that out. So I'm going to say 20, when was this? 2021 01 23 underscore Elia underscore. And you can see here that it tells you what the current file name is and then what the new, it went too far, too fast. The current file name and then what the new file name is going to be. So the new file name is going to be the same convention as mine now. And it says 4 files will be processed. So then I click rename, and bada bing, bada boom, all of my files are now renamed over here correctly. Isn't that cool? Let's see. Hey, by the way, I am live checking the chat on YouTube, on the Adobe Care YouTube channel. So if you have any questions at any point along this lesson, you can always chime in and I'll answer them for you live. That's the whole point of this being live. Or you could just follow along. That's cool too. So now that we have these files, let's go ahead and go into our Premiere Pro. Now, don't get scared. There's a lot of options when you open up Premiere Pro, and you're probably like, wow, that's a lot of things to click on. Well, guess what? This window right here, this is just, the learning window. So when you have time, if you want to take more tutorials, you can take some tutorials here, or you can find how-tos. So this whole learning window, you don't even have to worry about. You can even hide it. Now this one here, this is your recent project. So when you start working on a lot of recent projects, that's what's going to show up here. It's easy to open them up again and all that jazz. Then you have a bunch of stuff here, which you don't have to worry about because we're not working in Premiere Rush and we're not making team projects. Herbert asked, what was the renaming tool you used? And the renaming tool is called Adobe Bridge. Tamika says she has no idea that you could use Adobe Bridge for that. Yep. Francine says, can you highlight without the spray icon? I don't know what that means. But you mean like when I'm doing this? Or I'm not sure. So let me pop myself in here. So all you need to do is go to New Project. That's it. And then here in Location, you have to find where that location is. So you go to Browse. And remember, we made an entire folder specifically for Premiere over here, the Premiere folder. That's where your project's going to live. You can click Select Folder, and then you're going to give your project a name, right? Every time you make a Premiere project, you have to name it something. And I like naming my Premiere projects the same way I name everything. So 2021, my Zoom tool decided to act up today. 2021, what's the date today? 0604 _ MIT Bitrate _V1, right? So the date, what it is, and what version it is. Now, if you go over here to Scratch Disks, I mean, you don't have to worry about any of this stuff, right? Not really, not when you're starting out anyway. The only thing is, your renderer, if you have CUDA, if you have NVIDIA, an NVIDIA graphics card, you could choose CUDA, but a lot of people are probably only going to have this one, the Mercury Playback Engine. Don't even worry about it right away. Like, that's too much for us. Just go to Scratch Disks over here and make sure that they're all set same as project, because that means that any files that Premiere generates are going to go into that same folder that we made, that folder called 07 Premiere. You're probably wondering, why do I name everything with a number in front of it? Well, that way I can just stay organized when I have to do like an alphabetical order type of thing. Because if it goes in number order, then it ignores, the alphabetical order, footage, audio, Premiere, all of that. So then I press OK. So literally all I did was indicate a file path and then just create a name for my project. So this is what Premiere is going to look like when you open it. And it might look scary and intimidating, but I promise you it's not. It's actually just 4 very easy to learn windows. So then we have our project window over here. This is where all your clips are going to go, right? So they're either going to go here as a list like this, which is list view right here. That's what's selected. Or they're going to go in as thumbnails, right? This is what is called icon view, which is down here. So you can always switch how you're viewing your clips, as a list or as icons. It also has this thing called freeform view, but don't worry about it. I feel like that's a little advanced. So this is where your clips go, right? Clips go here. It's called the project window. And this is the source window. This is where you view your clips. Another way to say clips is sources, right? So your clips are your source, and then your timeline or your sequence that's here, this is where you build your video. So this is where your video is going to go. And then here is where you view what's going on in your video. So this is where you view your video, and then this is where you view your clips. Super easy. Super, super, super easy. And then you have here your tools palette. So this is where you change your mouse to become different tools. Right now, my mouse is my selection tool. So you see this is highlighted in blue, and my mouse is the selection tool. It's an arrow. But if I click, let's say here, now well, I don't have a timeline, so it's not going to change. But essentially, when you click different things, it should change to different tools, but only when you have a timeline. So we don't have that yet. But it's cool because you always know that you can switch tools here. And then if you hover over them, it tells you what the shortcut is. So razor tool is C. So if I want it to change to the razor tool, I just press C. The selection tool is V. So if I want it to change to the selection tool, I just press V. You know, hand tool, type tool, and it's all kind of self-explanatory because hand is H, type is T, all that jazz. So that's it, right? So now all I have to do is start putting clips over here into my project window. Let's see. Jose said, can you show your folder organization briefly? Yes, I can. So this is what my folder organization looks like. Footage, audio, graphics, music, photos, documents, Premiere, AE. And just so that I don't have to write this out every single time, on my hard drive, I have this folder called XXXXX_name. And this is an empty folder with empty folders inside. So every time I have a new project, say that I've just shot a project for Nat Geo, right? So I just take this folder, I copy it, then go to my main hard drive here, I paste it, right? And then I rename it. So I'll do 2021-06-04 Nat Geo. And now I have all those folders inside, and I start dropping footage from my cameras into the footage folder, etc., right? So it makes sense. Everything's always organized. So let's go to this video here and let's start putting in footage. Now, what we can do is we can just drag the footage folder directly in here, and we can drag the audio folder directly in here, and it will make folders inside of Premiere for us that are the same as the folders on our hard drive. But in Premiere, they're called bins. So we have the footage folder here. If we open it up, we have those clips of us talking over here. We have a couple of other folders as well, right? So if we just select footage and audio by holding down Control or Command, and then just drag it in, wait a few seconds, it's going to import, and then all those clips will be viewable inside of Premiere. And then it's going to say that there's some files that aren't able to be imported. Now, this is sometimes when you shoot on certain cameras, it'll shoot like a video file, but it'll also shoot a thumbnail file, or it'll shoot like an accompanying metadata file. And those files aren't being imported into Premiere. So it's going to tell you exactly what's not right for Premiere. You can say, that's okay, it doesn't matter. Okay, so now you have those folders here already. You have your footage folder and your audio folder. I'm going to make another folder here because while we can watch the clips, we can't put them into a timeline without making a timeline, if you know what I mean. So if I want to make a new timeline, I just go down here to New Item. It's this little page turn icon at the bottom. And I go to Sequence. And then if I want to make something for YouTube, then I just choose the very first preset. So it says ARRI 1080 23976. That's the one that I want to choose. Why? Well, if we look at the info here for what it is, right, it tells you the video settings. So the frame size is 1920 by 1080. That means that the actual size of the video is going to be 1920 pixels across. So dots of color, right? 1,920 dots of color across and 1080 dots of color on the side. So that's the size of HD, right? HD. So that's correct. And then the frame rate, 23.976. I know that this seems like a crazy weird number, but I promise you that this is the standard frame rate that almost every video on the internet is in, 23.976. So sometimes you just got to remember, but if you don't want to remember, all you got to do is select the very first preset over here. And then you got to give it a name, of course. So I'm going to name it, let's see, I'm going to name it 01, because I like to number and order everything. I'm going to name it 01 A-roll, because A-roll is our talking. And I'm going to say, okay. So I have a sequence here now. It's called 01 A-roll, but it's hanging out by itself over here. It doesn't have a folder to go into. So let's make a bin for it. Let's make a new bin down here. We're going to click new bin and one pops up. I'm going to call it 03. Actually, I'm going to make an 03 graphics. And then I'm going to make another one called 04 sequences. And I'm just going to put this sequence in here. And you see, as soon as I made a sequence, that sequence has popped up over here and this window has activated, right? So now I can scrub through with my time indicator, current time indicator, also called a playhead, and I can see what's in the sequence. Well, obviously nothing's in the sequence yet because I didn't put any clips in it yet, right? So let's take a look at our clips. Jose Meza says, would you recommend to save directly to a hard drive? I generally save to cloud storage. However, I feel that these files may get quite large. I would not recommend editing off the cloud for large files because depending on the type of project that you have, it's going to take a really long time to pull those off the cloud. And then once they're pulled off the cloud, they go on your hard drive anyway. So what I would recommend is having your files on a hard drive and then having a backup hard drive as well, just in case. So I also edit off of my hard drives as well because I have so many clients. So after every shoot, a client that I'm editing for, they will hand me a hard drive of footage and then I just edit on that hard drive right away because these turnaround times are quick. I don't have time to upload or offload or whatever. So here I am. Before I go ahead and start putting footage in here, I need to know what the footage is that I'm putting in here, right? And I need to organize it a little bit as well. So let me go ahead and open up my footage folder here, double click on it. And you can see here right now, I'm in list view, which means that they are as a list. Now, what can I see from it? Not a lot. Well, I can see that the frame rate is 23.976 frames per second, right? And if I go all the way to the very right, I can see that the size of these clips is 3840 by 2160. This is called 4K, right? This is the elusive 4K. But my sequence over here is HD. So this is 1920 by 1080. And then these clips are 3840 by 2160. So these clips are actually larger than my sequence. So when I put them in, if I want to drag it in like this, you'll see that only the middle portion of the clip is seen, right? If I go ahead, oh, that's a weird thing to pause on. Let's pause on a smile, huh? I look pained. Okay, there we go. So if I go ahead and click on the clip, and I go over here to effect controls. So effect controls are the controls for the clip that is selected. So I can go over here to the tab called effect controls. I can see that the scale of the clip is 100%, but if I scale it down a little bit, it can start fitting into the whole screen. So all I do is I hold the scale number and I drag it left to right. Or I can simply click on it and type in a new scale number. I happen to know that 4K is 4 times the size of HD, so I can just type in 50, and there it is. It's placed. But what if I want a sequence that is 4K, that is exactly the size of my video clip over here. Well, that's easy enough to do. All I got to do is go over here to sequence, fun little tab up here, sequence settings. And then for frame size, instead of 1920 by 1080, I go ahead and type 3840 by 2160, right? And then I press OK. And now I can move this scale back to 100. And now it's 3840 across pixels, 2160 down pixels, and it's scaled properly. So either one of those works, but we're still seeing these as a list view. So what happens if we go and take a look at them in icon view as thumbnails? Give it a sec to boot, and right away we start seeing the thumbnails here. We can even make them bigger. We can even scooch this up. There's a lot of ways to change the sizes of things in Premiere, right? You can select the border between any two windows and you can scooch it to help yourself, especially when you're on like a laptop screen or a small screen, to help yourself. A lot of times, if you just hover your mouse in the border between two items, like even if they are tracks, like this is the V1 video track and V2 video track. What if I want to see my thumbnails in the V1 video track? Well, I just hover between the two and then I just drag up. So I start seeing my thumbnails here. What if I want to see the audio track? What if I want to see these waveforms, this little waveform here, a little bit better? Well, I hover between A1 and A2 and I can expand that. So I start seeing waveforms. What if I want to zoom in to like maybe this section right here of the video? Well, I can grab these two little handles here, 1 and 2, and drag them closer to each other. And so I'm zooming in on the playhead, on where my playhead is, where this little line is. What if I want, just for a second, for this entire window right here to be full screen? Well, I go ahead and I select the window. So I select the word footage. You can see there's a blue box that highlights it. And then I just press the tilde key, which is the squiggly line on the top left of my keyboard, the tilde key. There we go. And now it's full screen. And now I can kind of hover my mouse over each of these thumbnails. This is called hover scrubbing, to make sure that maybe it's what I want, or to just double check what's in it. For example, I can tell that in these two clips of me over here, I'm wearing this like peasant shirt, but in this clip, I'm wearing my dog shirt. So I can tell that this is definitely not part of the video. So I can very, very easily, with a clear conscience, just click that and delete it by pressing the little trash can icon, or just clicking delete on my keyboard. Don't need it, right? I can go into each folder. Like for example, there's this folder called From Previous Episodes. So I double click it and that pulls up clips from previous episodes. It usually takes a second to show up because I'm also currently live streaming. I can zoom in and make these clips larger, or make the thumbnails larger. I can make them smaller. So this is really, really helpful when I'm kind of looking through. And there's even a stray audio file in here, which has popped out to me. So I can even take that audio file and maybe put it into my audio folder. There's no need for it to be in here. So I can press the tilde again to go back to seeing all of the things. And there's that audio file. I can go back to list view over here, make the list smaller, go back to my main sort of organization here, go to footage from previous episodes, find that audio file. It's just here. And you can tell that it's just an audio file because of the icon next to it. We have these icons right here. These are all AV icons, right? AV icons. So they're audio, which is the green waveform, and video, which is the purple. But then this one here is just audio, right? So it belongs in my audio folder. or in my audio bin. So let's just start dragging files onto our timeline to start cutting, to start editing. So we have this file that we dragged, but I don't want it to be first, so I'm going to delete it. Whenever you make any changes in the timeline here, or whenever you make any changes here, it doesn't mean that the file is deleted off your computer. It just means that the file is no longer, or the media is no longer in Premiere. But it's fine. Let me see if anybody has any questions. Melba had a question that I missed a little bit earlier. Let's see what Melba said. Is there a way to compress or make a large video file smaller? I had a situation where I downloaded a 15-second video from Adobe Stock, but my website wouldn't accept it as it was too large. Oh, very good question, Melba. Yeah, you can do that. All you got to do, let's say that you can do it within Premiere too. Let's say that you want to make one video file smaller, right? Easy. Let me show you. Let's go into footage. Let's drag this one, right? This one, it's a 4K file. Now, if I'm not sure what the sequence settings are for this file, say I want to have the exact same sequence settings, but I just want it to be smaller, right? In the size on my computer. All I got to do is drag this thumbnail into the new item icon. So literally drag the thumbnail onto new item, because before we use new item to create a sequence, but you can also just drag the thumbnail onto the new item icon to create a sequence that is the same size as your video clip and has your video clip inside of it. So if I just drag that in, here it is. So this entire sequence just has my video clip and it's named the same as my video clip, right? The only problem is it places the sequence within my footage folder. So I would then have to put it into my sequences folder if I want to stay organized. But anyway, so you have this whole video clip. It's in Premiere. And now you want to make it smaller, right? So we'll go to File, Export, Media. Oh, my export settings window is Gimundo for some reason. Let me make it smaller. And then over here in your settings, you can choose what quality you want. So you can, if you do H.264, which is going to be what your standard like websites and YouTube and everything's going to be able to read H.264. Then you can choose a preset. So let's say that you want this clip to go on YouTube or to be smaller. You can choose like, okay, please give me YouTube quality and make it like 720p HD. And when you click on that, it gives you an estimated file size. So when your website says, hey, this video that you uploaded is too large, I only take videos that are like up to 1,500 megabytes. You could be like, oh, okay, this is under 1,500 megabytes, you know? Or if you need it to be even lower quality, you can go down here under video over here, scroll down to bitrate settings. And right now my bitrate is 16. So if you want it to be even less, you can type in a lower number like 8, for example. And you can see the estimated file size has gone down to 622 megabytes. So play around with your bitrate until you get it to be as low as possible. And then you can click export to export from Premiere, or you can click Q and that puts it into Media Encoder, which is another program that can batch export clips. So Media Encoder is another program if you have a lot of clips that you want to change the resolution of, or you want to, make them smaller, change them from MP4 to MOV, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can do all this that I just did inside of Media Encoder, but we're not learning that right now. I feel like that's a little bit too complex. So let me get rid of this. Back to the tutorial, but hopefully that helped you, Melba. Let's see. Question, what about 2 different frames per second? Oh yes, good question. We will cover that in this tutorial, so keep watching. Okay, so let's just put all of our A-roll clips into this timeline because I called it A-roll, right? And we need to cut down our A-roll. So I'm going to select all of our A-roll clips. But before I do that, because right now, if I select all of them, which is his talking heads, I put them in here. My talking head, I put it in here. It's all, I need to zoom out more. It's all like the same color, right? And later when I chop it up into tiny little pieces and I rearrange where they are in the timeline, because obviously we want him to start talking, then me to cut in, then him to start talking again. It's going to all be the same color, right? It's all going to be this blue. It's called iris, and it's just not going to be very useful for me. So before I go ahead and put them all in, I'm going to color code them. So I'm going to select mine, hold down shift, select the second one so I could select both of them, right click, go to label and make them purple. And now I can drag them in and they are purple. I'm going to select his. So select the first one, shift, select the last one, that selects all of them, right click, label, and I'm going to make them blue, which is a different blue than we just did. And I'm going to drag them in. And now you can see that they are different colors. Yeah? Okay. So now I'm going to go to my pre-cooked turkey because I'm skipping the step where I do the sound syncing because I feel like that's a little bit more advanced. So I'm going to just open up my other project where I've done a lot of these steps for you so that we can just, go through them a little bit faster. So, we back. Here we go. So here's what we just did, right? We have we have his footage here, we have my footage here, and they are in the timeline, right? So let's start cutting. Now, what we can do is before we even start cutting, we can just analyze the waveform down here because we want to save as much time as possible and we want to work smarter, not harder, right? So take a look at this. These chunky chunks, this is where he's talking and he's actually doing good, right? And then, so we have like, this is a good section. I can already tell because I'm just looking at the waveform because time is going from left to right, right? So that's how we read this. And then I see that there is some sections that look a little wonky to me. This one. So we can cut all of those out really easily. So if we want, we can just go to our razor tool, which is C, and then just start placing those cuts. Cut, 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 cut. And we can just chop that up. So chop out all of the silences in between, chop out all of the wonky bits. Cut, cut, cut. And now we just press shift while selecting all of those bits that we want to get rid of and then delete them, right? But if we delete them, it leaves all of these gaps. So then what? We have to do this? No, that's silly. That takes too long, right? So instead, if we leave the gaps, let's say we accidentally left a lot of gaps, we can just close all the gaps by doing a shortcut. Now, this shortcut isn't standard in Premiere, so you do have to create it. And this is how you create a shortcut. For me, it's close gaps, right? That's the shortcut. But because it's not standard, just go to Edit, Keyboard Shortcuts. And here you see all of the keyboard shortcuts that Premiere has. And you can actually type in and search for keyboard shortcuts to see if they exist. But you can also, if you just forget what a keyboard shortcut is, you can search them here. So I'm going to search in close gap. And you can see the keyboard shortcut that I've assigned to it is Control-Shift-G. And that is how I closed the gaps. Control-Shift-G. But that's not all, right? Maybe I don't want the gaps to exist in the first place. So let me go back a little bit. Let me hold down Shift, select all of these in between moments, all of the stuff I want to cut out. And instead of deleting them with a regular delete, I'm going to delete them with a ripple delete. And a ripple delete is going to magnetically put all those clips together. So I right click and I go to ripple delete. Bam. And all those gaps are gone, right? All those clips are gone. All those gaps are gone. But you know what? There's an easier way to do this. It's just the shortcut, Shift Delete, right? Or for me, because I redid all my shortcuts to make them easier for me, it's Command D, but whichever shortcut you use, it's going to be the easiest way to do this is by ripple deleting. Oh, but take a look here. So if I ripple delete, I've missed something, right? I still have this section in the front that I want to get rid of. And I also have this little hiccup that I want to get rid of. I can tell that I want to get rid of them because there's no talking at this point. And at this point, it's just a short little hiccup. He never does short little hiccups unless they are mistakes. So I can just place my playhead, which is my blue line. I can place it here and I can just press I can just press Q. And what Q does is it inserts a cut right here at my playhead. And then it gets rid of everything to the previous cut. And it ripple deletes all this stuff forward all at once just by pressing Q. So all I got to do is press Q. Bam. Same thing here. I want to cut out this little hiccup. I place my playhead right at the end of it. And then I press Q. Easy. What about this little silence right here? What if I want to place a cut here and get rid of everything from here to the next cut and ripple everything forward at the same time? Well, you guessed it. I just place my playhead here. Now I want to insert a cut here, get rid of this little gap, right? I press W. And then that gets rid of that. So I can do the same thing. I can go through, so I can put my mouse here, press W, put my mouse here, press Q. That got rid of that. And I can clean it up. What about right here? Now I see that there's this little section right here that is a little hiccup and another little hiccup and another little hiccup. So I want to get rid of this whole section. I can do this with shortcuts as well. So instead of going to the razor tool and changing tools and clicking and then selecting this and then ripple deleting, that's a lot of work. An easier way to do it is to just place my playhead here, press Command K, which is the shortcut for the, insert edit, it's called, but I like to call it slice, karate chop, ka-cha, right? So I just do Command K, and then I move my playhead here, and what do I press? Can anybody guess? I press Q, and I got rid of that, right? So using this method, I can go through and very easily already kind of pre-edit things because I know how this speaker speaks and I know what is going to be relevant and what's not going to be relevant. So I'm going to Command K, unlink, link these, delete this, Command Shift D. Then I can go through, I can do like Command K, move it forward, Q. Command K, move it forward, Q. Or I can go ahead and grab that razor tool, do some of these really simple little cuts here. Cut. Then Shift, select them, and do Shift D for ripple delete, right? So all of a sudden, now I have everything cut up into sections. Let's just pretend like we've edited a lot. Do 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 do. I'm trying to go fast, so I'm trying to like show you as much as possible without actually playing the video for context and all that, because I don't know if you need it. But let's just say that we have a bunch of, you know, cut up sections now. And there they are, right? Let's go to the actual, this is how they actually are. So this is the footage that I ended up with. So I started with like a full hour of the two of us talking, and I ended up with this, you know, some of him talking and some of me talking. But now I have to rearrange these clips in a way that makes the most sense. Jose asks, is there any certification for Adobe Premiere? Yes, there is. BJC says, love the keyboard shortcuts in the timeline. Me too. When I learned them, my entire workflow changed. Tamika says, you can change the color. Oh my God, that's going to be so helpful. Yes, Tamika. And not only can you change the color, but you can also change the color when they are already in the timeline. So say I wanted to change the color of just these clips right here. Maybe he's talking about something different or important or something. I can right click, go to label, and change them here to, let's say, tan. There we go. Really cool, huh? Sandra says, don't you want some pauses sometimes for effect? Absolutely. I think it's up to you, however you want to edit this. So I think for this tutorial, I just wanted to have something to show you, right? But in this case, let's rearrange these. Now, let's say that I want to put this clip right here, this first clip of me talking right here, this first clip, and I want to put it right here in between these first two clips of him talking, right? So I want to move this clip over here, and then I want everything else to ripple backwards. There's a few ways to do this, right? A lot of people, when they're starting out with Premiere, this is what they'll do. They'll move this clip up to the top. So on the second layer, right? They'll move this audio onto the second layer. Then they'll go ahead and select everything. Then they'll move everything out. Then they'll bring this in. Oh wait, it's got to be linked. They'll bring everything in. Then they'll put it in like this. Then they'll select this. They'll put it back. Then they'll select this. They'll put it back, right? That took 100 years. And not only did it take 100 years, but it's also a very roundabout way of doing things that makes no sense. So we're going to do this. I'm going to show you a couple of different keyboard shortcuts that you could use for your workflow to make this seamless and super, super easy. Oh, hold on. I know you can't see it. I'm just trying to fix something here. Okay, coming back to it. Okay. So here's what you can do. The first thing that you can do, if you want to move a bunch of clips to the right, for example, you do not have to zoom out to the whole thing and then draw a box around them, right? Say that you're like here, you're zoomed in to the timeline, and you want to select everything from this clip to the right of this clip. All you got to do is press the button A on your keyboard, A. And A is the track select forward tool. So now your mouse has become the track select forward tool. And if you forget, it's right here. It's right here, and it tells you. So now when you click, it has selected everything to the right of that clip. Check it out. If I zoom out, you'll see it, right? So you can always change it back to V, the selection tool. You can always move it out. I use the track select forward tool all the time to move clips, to introduce gaps. Like sometimes I want a gap, right? To put something in there. So that's something you could do. And then you could go ahead and move this over, right? And then you could click in the gap, right click, ripple delete, right click, ripple delete. That's one way to do it. The simplest way to do this though, I'm going to undo Command Z or Control Z. The simplest way to do this though is literally move this over here while rippling everything over. And all you have to do is as you're moving it, because if I hands off the keyboard, right? if my hand is off the keyboard and I'm moving this over, what happens? It overwrites, right? Which means it cuts off this third clip and it introduces a gap if I'm not touching anything. But instead, I'm going to keep my hand on Control and Alt at the same time. And then I'm going to move it. And check it out. Now I moved it and everything rippled over. So if I want to insert myself into this narrative, I can, and it's super easy. It's super easy to rearrange clips this way, you know, back and forth, to weave in that narrative. Very, very simple. Bada bing, bada boom, done, right? So let's say that we have, done this, and here it is, and this is what it looks like, and this is what it sounds like thus far. I've also introduced some gaps in here where I felt it was useful to just keep the gap because maybe we'll put some footage in here, some other footage to cut into it. Okay. Let me just cut back because I have a couple questions that I want to address. Jose says, what camera am I using? I am using the Sony a7S III. Murat asks, after cutting the clip into subclips, can you uncut the clips? In other words, merge the remaining clips. Yes. I think what you're talking about is creating a nested sequence. So you can, if you want. So here's one way to do it, right? Say that you've cut up all these clips and you want to then merge, as you said, this half of it, right? You want to create one clip out of all of these. You just select all of them, right click, go to nest, select the word nest, and then name it. So I'm going to name this new nested sequence. It's going to become its own sequence, essentially. I'm going to call this back half. I'm going to press OK. So now all of those have become one, right? And now you can cut this one up if you want, or if you want to change what's inside of it, you can just double click. And here it is. Here's the back half. So it's kind of like a Russian nesting doll situation. It's a sequence within a sequence, if that makes sense, if that's what you were asking. If you were asking not that, if you were asking how do I group the clips so they act all together at once, you can do that too. So I'm going to undo. So if I want to group all these clips so that they are not like, you know, disparate clips that I click on, but they're all one, I select them, I right click, and I click group. So now when I select them, they all select as one and they all move as one unit. Hopefully that answers your question. Murat. Let's see. Mark asks, how would you move it out of the bin? I used to be able to double click and hold Command key for it to open a new window. Doesn't seem to work for me anymore. Not sure what you're asking. Sri asks, what if I unlink audio and video and then have to move audio to another part of the video for context matching? Ripple delete didn't work for me. I have to manually edit to close gap. Any suggestions? Yes. So I think when you were doing that, you didn't have track targeting on for the track that your audio was on, if that makes sense. So that's a little bit too advanced, I think, for this beginner tutorial, but we will talk about track targeting a little bit. BJC asks, what workspace are you using custom? I am not using a custom workspace. I'm just using the editing workspace, which is the default, easiest, easy peasy workspace that comes within Premiere because I don't want to complicate things too much. Awesome. Okay, great. I think that's it. If you have any questions, and I didn't answer them, ask them again, okay? Because maybe I missed them or something. So I've cut all this up. This is what it sounds like. Let me play a little bit of it for you.
On standard static interviews, we wanted the show to feel dynamic.
Having the interviews be these walk and talks also allows the viewer to be able to It's very quiet, right? You can tell because here on the audio monitors, it should be hitting between -6 and -12 decibels. That is our sweet spot. But watch what happens when I play it. With Elia and the guest and experience these locations the same way that they did. One of the most difficult segments to show. So it's really, really quiet. We'll deal with that in a bit because this is the portion where I like to start introducing music, right? I like to put music underneath my videos so that then it's timed out well. And then I know the timing so I can start putting additional footage on top. The way that pretty much all editing programs work is they have rows here, right? And each row is called a track. So right now we only have one video track and one audio track. Actually, we have two, but we can make it one real quick. Bam. I don't want to confuse you too much. So I have one video track and then one audio track. So what I'm going to do with this video is I'm going to put additional footage on top. And the way that this looks at footage is it'll only look at what's ever on top. So as this is playing, it'll only play whatever clip is the topmost clip. So you can have, I have a project I'm working on right now that has over 100 video tracks. So it only plays the one that's seen at the very top. And then we can put more stuff underneath here. So we can put like a music track over here. So let's find a music track to put. You can go over here. Now there's a lot of windows open, right? We have our source window. We talked a little bit about our effects control window. Oh, bottom right. We talked a little bit about our effects control window. So that's open. We have our project window that's here. We have our program window. All these windows that are open, those aren't all the windows that Premiere has, by the way. So if you go over here to window, you can see which ones are open. So like I said, we have our effect controls window open. We have our tools window open, but there's a lot of other windows that aren't open. So the one that we're going to open is called Essential Sound. And this is where not only are you going to be able to find music for your projects if you want from Adobe Stock, but you're also going to be able to edit your audio. So let's find something. Let's go to Browse over here, the Browse tab. And as you can see right now, there's nothing selected, but it just takes you straight up to Adobe Stock and you can start searching for stuff. So you can search for mood. So we want something that's like, I don't know, mysterious. We want something that's frantic. Let's go to genres. We want something that's maybe like dance or electronic. For filters, we want the tempo to be like not super slow, and we want the duration to be at least 2 minutes. And we want there to be no vocals, right? Because we're talking, so we don't want the music to have any vocals. And look at this. It gives you all sorts of different, like thousands of results. Now, is this music free? No, you do have to buy this music, right? You do have to click on the shopping cart. BJC, will you cover sound editing? I will cover sound editing, but just not like super advanced, right? Because it's a beginner tutorial. So we're not going to do like panning left to right. So I can go ahead and before dragging this music into this track, I can just audition it. I can play it. So I can put my playhead where I want the music to start. So in this case, I want it to start at the very beginning. And then by pressing timeline sync, by having this selected and using the volume buttons here, I can go ahead and press play on every track to see if I want to use it. Now, personally, what I like to do when I'm picking tracks is I want to pick tracks with chapters. So I want to pick tracks that have like an intro and then maybe a chorus that's a little wild and then like a dip and then like a raise. So before I even look at these tracks, I can already tell which ones I want to play and which ones I don't want to play. For example, this one called Broke by Epic House. Look how it's like mostly flat, right? And then there's like one dip and that's it. Don't even want to test that one. This one called Fading Fast, I don't want to test it because it's just the same. It's the same beat over and over and over again. And I can tell by just looking at the waveform. So I'm going to select something like Sahara's to play because I can see the chapters right away. I can see that there's like an intro, there's a slower bit, there's a faster bit, there's a raise, there's like some variety, and then there's a different thing. So this is like definitely something along the lines of something that I want to audition. So I'm going to press play and then move with the audio here to just like, make sure that it's what I want.
Moments in Time is a huge passion project for us.
No.
And what started...
Pause. Let's go to the next one that I like. Maybe this one, Bermuda.
Moments in Time is a huge passion project
Not bad.
for us. And what started as a bunch of multicolored Post-it notes on the office wall quickly...
So if I want Bermuda, all I have to do is click it and then drag it in. And that's it. There it is. Now, this is going to be a low resolution version of the track. If you want to purchase it, if you want to use it for YouTube or whatever, you do have to buy it. You do have to click on that shopping cart icon. I cannot overemphasize that enough. But I actually don't want to use Bermuda. I know exactly what I want to use for this project. It's called Future Yellow. So I'm going to uncheck all that, and I'm going to go to the search bar, and I'm going to go Future Yellow and drag it in. And I can even make it yellow by right-clicking, label, yellow. There we go. Now I'm going to listen to it, and I'm going to choose where in this track I want the actual talking to start in my video. So just to listen to the track by itself, I can either click M, or I can click M, which is mute. I can click M on this track, or I can click S. M mutes this track, and S solos this track. So when you only have two tracks, it's essentially the same thing. So I'm going to press S to solo. I'm going to listen to it. Right after that first like little beat, I want to introduce my talking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock the music track by pressing the lock here so that I don't accidentally tap it or touch it or move it, because right now I'm likely to touch it or move it or whatever, So instead of that, I'm going to just lock it. So now it's like unmovable. Now I can't get access to it. I'm going to press A, which is going to change my mouse to that track select forward tool. I'm going to select everything. I'm going to press V and then move it back so that it starts a little bit later. Great. Now, somebody says, how do I reduce the volume of a single audio segment? If you want to reduce the volume of a single audio segment, let's say you want to reduce the volume of this audio segment here, there's a volume line that goes through it. So all you have to do is drag that volume line up or down to increase or decrease the volume. It's really easy. But instead of doing that right now, we are just going to make sure that our volume for all of our dialogue segments is the same, and that it complements the volume for our music here. So, somebody wants an Audition tutorial. Zoom bin. If you want an Audition tutorial, it's literally on the Adobe Care channel. I've done a couple of tutorials on Audition. You can look it up on this very channel. So I'm going to mute this audio here and lock it for now. I'm going to focus on just the dialogue audio. You can hear that sometimes it's loud, sometimes it's not. Let's listen. Like this, for example, it's going to be louder.
Down standard static interviews.
Versus this is going to be very quiet. Like barely, Versus me, who's going to be pretty loud. But still, none of them are hitting where I want them to hit. So instead of the Browse tab, I'm going to go to the Edit tab over here next to it. And I'm going to select all of the audio by holding down Alt and then dragging a box around it. So if I hold down Alt, drag a box, it's going to ask me, what type of audio is this? And I'm going to say this is dialogue, right? Because Premiere has a lot of audio editing capabilities. You don't have to go into Audition. Premiere has it. So I'm going to go to dialogue here. And then for loudness, I'm going to click Auto Match. And that's going to match all of the volume levels across every clip to other clips. It's going to auto match all the loudness. I'm going to click Auto Match. And there we go. Now everything at the very least is at the same level. You can see here in the waveforms, it's all leveled out, but it's still too quiet, right? So I'm going to go over here to level, clip volume level, and I'm going to ramp that up.
And then Yaman goes off and starts photographing.
And it's not enough, right? The volume was really, really quiet. So it's not enough to take this all the way up. I have to add even more volume. So with this selected, I'm going to right click, go to audio gain, and then add like 8 decibels on that. And then play that.
Me looking at us like, what are we doing? And the whole time
even more I have to add. So right click, audio gain. I'm going to maybe add like 12 decibels. Press OK.
I'm trying to stay on point, and I'm trying to interview and ask questions, and then Yaman goes off.
I can also repair things like reduce noise. There's a lot of noise in the room, especially because I increased the volume.
Trying to interview and ask questions, and then Yaman goes off and starts photographing other people and engaging them.
And now let's work with the audio here with the music. So the music's obviously very loud right now. It drowns out the voice. So I'm going to mark it as music, go to clip volume level, turn that down. And now what I can do is I can duck it against the dialogue, meaning when there is no dialogue, the music's going to be louder. And when there's dialogue, the music's going to be quieter. You can see the volume line that's through the whole thing. Maybe I'll make it more visible by making this tan. Does that make it more visible? No, let's make it darker. Red. There we go. So there's the volume line that goes through it. Right now it's all consistent, right? It's a consistent volume. I want that line to go up and down, up and down, up and down based on the gaps that I have here. So I'm going to select it, ducking. That's called ducking. So I'm going to enable ducking. Going to say duck against the dialogue and generate the keyframes. And keyframes are those little dips and valleys, or they're the edges of the dips and valleys. It's going to make sense once it does its thing. Tom Kelly says, Adobe Care has a lot of awesome tutorials, which I wish I knew about this channel a couple months ago. There you go. So you can see now that volume line has keyframes on it, and keyframes are these little handles right here. That's a keyframe and that's a keyframe. So say for example, the beginning, I want it to be a little bit louder. I can take that volume line and drag it up. And because of the keyframes, you can see here, because of the keyframes, the entire volume of the whole thing doesn't drag up. It's just this portion of it, right? Or I can move this keyframe a little bit more to the right. Oh, that's a little too low on that keyframe. So I can go ahead and I can adjust them if I want to, but the thing is that this has auto-generated the keyframes because it recognized where those gaps were. So now it's louder in the gaps and quieter everywhere else.
And then Yaman goes off and starts photographing other people and engaging them, and suddenly I'm swarmed by other people. It was definitely interesting.
So how does it look like with all the music already done? It looks like this. So I have 4 music tracks here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have some gaps. I can start putting in B-roll. We have a little bit of time, so this is my go-to way of putting in B-roll, right? So I have clips here, and let me close the Essential Sound panel. Let me move myself to the bottom right. So I have clips here, and I want to put the most epic clips in the very front. So if I want to just choose portions of clips, because if I drag, let's say I drag this this entire clip that is just our trailer, right? If I drag the entire trailer into here, oh, that's not it. Let's see. Let's try that again. So if I drag the entire trailer into here, that's this entire long clip. That's our trailer. And the problem is that it is a lot of clips, right? So then I would have to be like, okay, well, I want the flashlight clip. That's pretty epic. So let me find where that flashlight clip is. Let me bring in the razor tool. Let me do a little cut here. Okay, find the end of that flashlight clip, do a little cut here. Okay, delete this, move the flashlight clip to the beginning, hold down Alt to select just the audio, delete that. Okay, now I have the flashlight clip here. Instead of doing that, instead of bringing in the full clip, I can bring in just a portion of the clip between in and out points. So I double click the clip, it pulls up over here. I have the same current time indicator here. I can go left to right on it. And I can go ahead and I can find where that flashlight clip is, right where it starts. I'm going to press I on my keyboard. And you can see what happens is there is now this light gray area. So it's selected everything from here to the end. So if I drag it in right now, it starts. Well, it starts with the flat. It starts a little bit before because I set the in point incorrectly, but there we go. It starts with the flashlight clip, right? But I don't want all of this part. I just want the flashlight clip. So I have to set an out point as well. So I just move this forward a little bit. Right there. That's where I want it to be out. And I press what? O, right? I and O for in and out. So I press O, and now that selection has become real small. So now if I want to drag this over here into the intro, it's just going to be just the flashlight clip, right? But there's an even easier way to do this. It is by pressing the period or comma buttons. So what the insert button, what the comma button does, it's going to insert it here, but it's going to ripple everything. Or sorry, it's going to ripple everything over. So let's try that. Let's press comma. So you can see it's created a gap in the music and it's rippled everything over. Sometimes you want that, but sometimes you don't. In this case, I don't, right? Because I already have this gap here. I just want to fill it. So I'm going to press the period button, and that is going to put that section of this clip here while not rippling everything back. Now I'm going to choose a different section of this video, which is already cut up. I'm going to choose the section where he puts his hat on. So I'm going to move my playhead to the beginning of that section, press I, move my playhead to the end of that section, press O, and then I'm going to press period again. And look, that gap is filling up. What's the problem? Well, if I find just one more clip that I want, maybe I want this clip right here, I, O, and I press period again. Oh, that's a pretty short one. Okay, let's do one more. Let's do this one right here where it's the Tokyo Tower, I, and then O at the end of here, O. And I want to put it in here. I want to put it in this gap, right? But then I press period and it starts overwriting the beginning of my talking, and I don't want that, right? So I'm going to do a little work area here on V2 on the second layer, so I can work on the second layer. So I'm going to select all of these video clips by pressing Alt because they're linked right now. So they're linked to the audio. If I want to unlink them for a sec, I just press Alt, select. Then I press Alt up on the keyboard, so that moves them one layer up. Then I select all of these audio clips by pressing Alt, dragging a marquee box, holding down Alt down. That pushes them down. Actually, I'm going to get rid of all of the audio. So I'm going to hold down Alt, drag a marquee box, and delete that audio. And then I want this portion to actually go here, right here, when I press period, which means I have to source patch it there. So I have to make sure that this source patching here on V1 is actually on V2. So I just click here, and the audio should go here instead. So then I press period, and there it is. So I'm going to hold down Alt, get rid of this audio. And now I have a little work area where I can now condense and shorten stuff up here, or I can just let it bleed over into the talking if I want. So here's what I see. I see that this clip right here, this little one, is really, really short. So I should make these clips a little bit shorter so that I can have this one bleed in a little bit more, or a little bit less. So right now it bleeds in from here to here. I want it to bleed in from here to, like, say here, right? So I'm going to shorten this clip over here. First of all, I'll make them all, resize them all. I'm going to shorten this clip to right before he turns on the flashlight. Move it over. And I'm going to shorten this clip to, I don't need the very end of it. I'll move that over. Then I'm going to move this over. And I'm going to move this over. Maybe shorten it to there. And there we go. Now let's watch it.
Moments in Time is a huge passion project for.
And oh, this needs ducking, and this needs all the audio stuff that we did to it because I didn't do it on this version. It's fine. I'll just lower the entire audio of it for now. And I can put in my own keyframes should I need to by holding down Command and creating them.
Moments in Time is a huge passion project for us, and what started as a bunch of multicolored posters.
So you get it, right? And then at the end, with all the music and B-roll, it's going to look a little bit like this. This is a slightly different B-roll, but you get it. Oh, it's not playing back.
Moments in Time is a huge passion project for us, and what started as a bunch of multicolored Post-it notes on the office wall quickly turned into a world.
Okay, I think my Premiere has had enough
motion.
of me for
and
today.
That means we didn't just want to have sit-down standard static.
Which is fine because we are done with the tutorial. Now, I've done this tutorial a couple of times, but it's been a little bit different every time. So if you want to see stuff like what I've done with the color in this video, stuff like color matching this video, or a little bit more about resizing clips in your timeline, check the Adobe Care channel because I've done the same tutorial 3 times, but I've done it a little bit different every time. So today I showed more on the like Adobe Bridge side of things and renaming your clip sort of things. So there's that. There's also, I've done a series called Tips and Tricks Tuesdays, which is on this channel as well. So you can always check that out. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you learned something new, something that you have never used before in your workflows, or if you felt that this was a useful beginner tutorial, then please write a comment. Let me know. Let the Adobe team know so that they know what to do. Oh yeah, Tom Kelly said mismatch in frame rates. How do you do that? Okay, real quick, Tom Kelly, just for you. Let me find something that is a different frame rate. Oh my gosh, super quick for you. Okay, check this out. So we have let me find a good clip and then I'll play it for you. Because I did want to show you that because you asked, and this is live. So if I'm not going to show it to you live, then what's the point? Okay, so here we go. We are just going to jump in here real quick. So this timeline right here is 23.976, right? And this clip right here is 60 frames per second. How do I know that? Well, if I go to list view here under frame rate, I can see that it's 60 frames per second. So let me select some in and out points on this clip. So I go, let's see, let me find a good section right there, right? Now it plays back, not in slow motion. See, but it's a different frame rate. So let me put in point, out point. Okay, let me drag just the video, which is this little button. I'll drag just the video over here. And I'll mute everything so you can see how it plays. You see how it doesn't play back in slow motion, right? So this is a 60 frame per second clip that is on a 23.976 per second timeline. If you want it to play back in slow motion, 2 ways. The first way is just press R which changes your selection tool to a rate stretch tool, and then you can stretch it out longer, and now it plays back in slow motion. Or make the clip slow motion from the very beginning. So I'm going to delete this. I'm going to clear the in and out points here, clear in and out. So this clip right here, the robot restaurant clip, just to make it clear, I'm going to right click. I'm going to change the label to red. And then I'm going to right click it, go to modify, interpret footage, and literally change the frame rate of the file from 60 to 23.976 and press OK. And look what happens. It has now become 23.976 and it plays back, you guessed it, in slow motion already. So then I can set a new in and out point, I and O, and then when I drag it in, guess what? It's in slow motion. Hold on. There we go. It's in slow motion. Okay, that was a real quick thing, but I hope that helped. Bye, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. If you want more tutorials, they're on this channel. Just type my name in and spend more time with me. My social media is Twitter, Valentina Vee, Instagram, Valentina.Vee. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye, everybody.